to another video, and yes, I have yet another bass trombone. Right now I own 7 bass trombones. Nobody's bought one yet. Thankfully, most of these are going to go away. I should be back down to 4-ish soon. Please, somebody buy these horns. The latest one is something that just kind of cropped up unexpectedly. I've been using a Yamaha YBL-630. That's it. No letters, no numbers, just 613 for a while now for my kind of commercial bass trombone. I use this at Disneyland, and honestly, it's great. It just gets the job done. It sounds like bass trombone. There's kind of just no fusses. The slide works, the valves move, and that's it. It just lives in my double case, and when I need a commercial bass trombone, it comes out. I don't practice it a lot. I don't really sit down and just play it for fun, because it's not really that kind of horn for me. But as a workhorse, it is great. And honestly, I had no plans of replacing it ever, because it was pretty cheap. And I mean, I can sell it for a little bit, but it's not going to get like $5 grand if I sell it. So it was a nice thing to have around. But this happened to pop up on eBay. This is the YBL-630G, right? 630G. Yeah, there we go. You might notice, if you're a Yamaha bass trombone fan, that's not a designation. That doesn't exist. Well, it does in Japan. This is a rare, at least in the United States, of course, Japanese-only JDM model of bass trombone. They did not make these for sale in the United States. And basically, as far as I can tell, just looking at it, and of course there's not a lot of information out there, it is most of a 613G, which is one of these with a gold brass bell, with the valve section from the later 613H. I've had one of those as well. I sold it to a friend. That's the more modern Yamaha bass trombone. I think like mid-90s up until the early 2000s. They made those for a while. And that's kind of the pre-Xeno bass trombone. And they have a wrap that looks just like this. The nice open wrap that has kind of survived on into the Xeno line. It's a little bit different in the YBL-830, which is the modern version. So yeah, this is kind of this weird in-between child. The 613 is the older independent bass trombone Yamaha made mid-80s up until the 90s. The 613H is what replaced it and carried on past that. And this kind of has elements of both. Why? I don't know. It's very strange to me that this model even exists. Did they only make it for like a couple of years in between? I have no idea. It has the modern linkage that you will find, I think even on like modern Xenos have very similar linkage to this that started on the 613H instead of the much smaller mini ball linkage that we find on the 613 no letter. So it does have the more modern features, but I guess not all of it. It also has the overslung F lever instead of the underslung lever, which is a little more comfortable. But again, the slide is pretty much the same as the 613, where it has oversleeves, but they're baked into the slide. They're not extra nickel parts. We've got yellow crook. This one has a brass or a nickel. Yes, and so does the old one as well. The slide is pretty much the same. The one difference that I think I have noticed, and let me check this right now, is that the lead pipe, I think, is a different lead pipe. Maybe it's not. No, I think they're the same. I thought this mouthpiece went in less far than it does on that horn. Yamaha used a weird lead pipe for a long time, and it was like the same lead pipe, not just the same receiver, but the same lead pipe on a lot of different horns, where the mouthpiece goes in a little bit farther than it does on most other instruments. And I think this has the same one, so it's not really that different. But oddly enough, the slides are not interchangeable. They have the same taper, so I can kind of put it on the other horn, but the threads don't line up. They're like in a different spot on the slide. So that's kind of odd. Again, 613H valve section, which is just a little more modern. It's got the open wraps. It's got the little tiny ferrule right here that I like. It's got no braces through the middle of here. We've only got the one here. A nice short pull on the F slide. I really like this because it keeps things light. A lot of makers will make this F slide pull all the way down to like here, so you get more overlap of nickel tubing. And again, on this side, really short. This actually came with a G slide installed, but thankfully, thanks science, it came with the G flat side, which is the one that I use, which has 2 braces. It's a little extra, but I can see, like, especially when you have it out, it would be a very flimsy part if it had no braces on it. And then we got the same tuning slide as the 613, no brace, and I swapped them around. They're the same part. And this one has the rose brass bell instead of the yellow bell that I have on my horn. It's the same kind of thickness, and it's got the same kind of damage where someone's put mutes in it about 1,000,000 times, and it's got all these tiny little dings. I don't care. That's not a big deal for me. But my other one has like pretty much the same damage in the same places. So that's kind of odd. I guess people like to use these for big bands because you're not going to be putting mutes in and out that often in other settings. And yeah, that's it. It's not really that crazy of an instrument. It's not like a huge step in any direction for Yamaha. It's just this weird middle thing that we never got in the United States. But it's great. One thing I was really worried about, and one thing that made me sell the 613H, which was a very good instrument. I had this and the 613H in the same time. This is a lot lighter. This is a very light bass trombone. It's just easy to deal with. It's got a nice thin bell. There's not a lot of like extra bracing and stuff in the back. The slide has built-in oversleeves and not nickel parts, so it's just light. And that's most of the reason I like that. It's just easy to carry around and use at Disneyland. And this is pretty much the same. There's no extra bracing. There's literally, apart from these guys on the attachment tubes, there's no braces at all throughout the middle of this horn, which is kind of weird because a lot will have 2 extra braces in there. I think 613H might have 2. So it's still pretty much the same weight. It's a little bit different weight balance because we have more attachment tubing farther out on the horn and not all kind of compacted in here. But you'll notice, Fran pointed this out, that the closed wrap version actually sticks out a little bit farther than the open wrap version, which is not common, but it's a little bit of a saving grace actually for the open wrap, which usually would stick out farther. And having played it all day, I just played all my scales and a bunch of etudes and stuff. I think I might be keeping this. I need to try it in the real world in different settings, but it kind of addressed some of the problems I have in my 613, namely the high range is accessible, it works, but it gets a little harder to play, and on this it just kind of feels a little more even, like a little more like the rest of the range. And this gets a little more of a crisp response kind of down low. The other horn has a really nice, wide, easy response, but it's not always what I want for like a commercial setting where I want to put snap on the front of a note. And I think this actually will do that a little bit better. And it doesn't seem to suffer in any major way that I've found. It does sound behind the bell, you know, just in my practice room, like it is just a tiny bit smaller of a sound. But honestly, that's not a huge deal. I just want a horn that works, and this works. So I will be selling one of these. I only need one workhorse Yamaha in my stable. And if you're interested, either one is probably going to be like $2,300. Not a crazy price. And these are great double valve bass trombones. Like, I could probably do almost everything that I do in the real world on just this, and I'd be totally satisfied with it. But I have to have all my fancy horns, and you have to let me do that. So yeah, one of these will be sold for now. I'm just gonna have them both and play them both and see which one wins. We'll find out sooner rather than later. And that's all I got time for. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.